fly by in the sky.
Hey, Composing Gloves here. I'm wearing a hat, and today we're going to be doing a redo of a video that I think I can just do better now. It is a video on Fruity Soft Clipper. So it's this plugin right here. Let me get rid of a couple of these things to show you it. So, okay, now if you don't know what soft clipping is about, I have a video later in this series, ironically, it's in the Maximus section. Look up the video that talks about hard clipping and soft clipping, because that's pretty much what this is a hard clipper versus a soft clipper. And so it applies soft clipping. So typically, I'm going to go over it really fast. So if you want to know more in detail about this, go check out that video. So I have a sine wave. Here it is. And typically, it should look like this. Coming through my oscilloscope here. That's what it should look like, right? It's a very sine wavy. Now, if I apply hard clipping, it'll apply a compression curve like this. Basically, a flat roof. That one signal hits it, it just gets chopped off because it's not allowed to be represented in our signal. It has a very specific sound to it. I talk about it in more detail in that other video. But that's what it looks like. So it looks, they get chopped off, chop. And it introduces a harmonic series that we might not necessarily want. And this is problematic when we want to drive our signal harder because it's not very transparent. So if you are mastering a song and you're going to use a look ahead limiter to compress your signal, you're going to have an issue because if it has hard clipping, it's going to be very, very noticeable. It's not always a big deal. And we'll look at times when it can sort of become a big deal in that other video. So I show you some of the things that go on there. Now, here we've got a soft clipper. If I turn off my hard clipper, and we can apply a compression ratio. Now, this ratio, the X is input, so as sound comes in going this way, it will get pushed down the louder it gets. So the sound over here is quiet. As it gets over here, it gets pushed down more. And you can see that represented here. This curve gets progressively pushed down more and more. This means that it will be a much more transparent thing, and it will allow our signal to hit the wall a lot harder, but still maintain its naturalness. So if I put my, so you have two knobs here. You have your post knob and your threshold knob. By default, it's a limiter. So it will not allow signal to go up to maximum. But if you want to limit it harder, you can simply lower your threshold. And right now, it's a very subtle effect. Very, very subtle. And this is sort of what you want to do with it. You have and as we bring our threshold down, you can hear the series get introduced, but it is far, far less noticeable. And then you have post, so you can turn it up afterwards if you so desire, or you could even turn it down more. Now, I did some experiments, and I believe that this is a look-ahead limiter, meaning you could use it for mastering theoretically. It will color your signal because of what I just said. It will add content, but anything you do use to compress will do that anyways. Check out my critical listening series as well if you're more curious about that. So what's interesting about this is, so you might be saying, first off, I want to mention that this analog compressors that use look ahead using it through a series of delays, or even just other plugins that are a little more fancy, they'll have non-linearities introduced, and that will color your signal differently. And it's a more, people call it a warmer feel. And so this is sort of stagnant. It applies one effect and then that's pretty much it. But it is very CPU friendly. So this may be the option for you. But also another thing they don't tell you is what the ratio is. It says it's a limiter. I don't know. It's probably an infinite to one ratio up here. Like it compresses it infinite to one because it won't let signal go through. So I'm not sure exactly how they set this up, but it will act as a limiter. And as far as I could tell, it uses look ahead. Alternatives to this are Maximus, that are included with FL, that is. Maximus, you can use that as a look ahead, controlling the delay with extremeness, and you can also use linear phase. Why is linear phase important? Well, let's turn Maximus off. And let's see. I haven't tested this. Let's see what the Fruity Soft Clipper does to a signal that is very phase sensitive. This will affect your entire mix, but it's much easier to see with particular signals. So we're going to use a saw wave. And so a saw wave should theoretically look like that, right? It should be just a line. If we convert it to sine harmonics, that's what it should look like. Now, if I play it, we will observe on our oscilloscope a saw wave. Pretty much exactly what is represented here. Now, what happens if we turn on Fruity Soft Clipper and run signal through it? Oh, wow. That's So it's got linear phase. You can see it get bent a little bit, indicating a small amount of phase shift. And that's only to be expected at really small values because you're pushing your filter basically harder. Right here, it's just, you don't want to look at the ends because they curve it as it comes in. So that's not totally accurate with this particular visualizer. You could turn that off too, by the way. So anyways, yeah, so Fruity Soft Clipper, great for that. But another option is you could use the Fruity Limiter. So you could use this for soft clipping if you want soft clipping as a sound, but Fruity Limiter also works excellent, and you can use it to set your ceiling. And it also has its own distortion, which models distortion. I'm not sure if it has non-linearities either, because Maximus, as far as I know, does not. I think it behaves, but what we did discover, I haven't done these experiments because they don't tell you, but what we did discover was that the threshold behaves differently based on where the ceiling is at. I'm willing to bet a similar behavior goes on inside Fruity Limiter. But anyways, that's Fruity Soft Clipper. If you understand what soft clipping is, then this is sort of straightforward. If you don't, then this plugin is a mystery to you. You should really go look that up. And again, I have a video on it, so you go check it out in the Maximus. It's later on in this very series. So if you see the playlist, you can skip to the one that talks about hard clipping. So yeah, it's a great thing. Very good tool for mastering. If you have any questions, let me know. Support me on Patreon, subscribe, and have a blessed day. Way too much oomph for a beginner, for very first beginning sound designer. So this is a great place to start. You are going to get out of this series a whole bunch of techniques. You're going to learn what all the buttons and knobs do and stuff like that. But the goal is to show you the application of these buttons and knobs. Not necessarily a sound design with. That's the second series that will follow this one day. Maybe not.